a lot of perspective. And of course, even though Lorenzo had plenty to talk about, since he's not actually in Venezuela right now, it's it can kind of help. But hey everyone, we're live. Time to roll the intro graphic, and I'll see you on the other side of that. And hey everyone, we are live. This is a Dash podcast. I'm Joel Valenzuela, as I'm sure you can read if you see on the screen. And we have the special, wonderful honor of speaking with the one and only Ernesto Contreras of Dash Core Group, live from Mexico. Oh wait, no, not this time. Where are you at this time?
Yeah. Hi, Joel. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure talking to you. I am now in Valencia, Venezuela. This is my hometown. This is where I was born and raised, and I've been here for the past 4 or 5 months. But we'll get into that later.
Yeah, well, that's sure to confuse our English viewers because people already call me Mr. Venezuela. And so, even because they confuse it with Valenzuela, now you have Valencia in Venezuela.
Yeah.
And Valenzuela talking to you, and it's way to get Americans and such confused. But yeah. So how's it been going for you? Have you been enjoying either the apocalypse or a staycation, depending on who you're talking to?
Yeah. I mean, it's weird to describe it in one way or the other because the reality is. Okay, so taking a step back, I came to Venezuela I think it was the 28th or something of February.
Yes.
I came basically for a couple of kind of secret events. First one, we had a meeting with Pro Franquicias, that is the largest franchise organization in Venezuela.
Okay.
So we had a conference with them, and it went really well. It was one of the biggest conferences they had, with about 200 people showing up, and they all wanted to hear what's up with this crypto stuff. And then we were going to do an announcement on the 14th of March, and make public that Megasoft was going to start taking crypto through our partner CryptoBuyer.
Okay.
But then the country was shut down on the 14th, and that could not be done. And well, ever since that happened, I've been staying at my parents' house, which is where I was born and raised, and it's great because I haven't been here for about 9 years. So it's kind of not cool that you cannot leave when you want, but it's been great to have the chance to share so much with my parents again, and go around the vicinity where I grew up and stuff. So it requires you to be flexible, but I would lie if I didn't say that I'd enjoyed it. Every day in the mornings I go for a bike ride or a run around my city, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I understand, and there's got to be worse things to happen than to have go back to your parents' place and just take a chill vacation for a while. Well, for a lot of people, it isn't really like that. It was the same for me, pretty much. That except I didn't go see my parents. I just stayed right here, and all my work and stuff is all from home, so nothing really changed there. And then it's a nice, great weather outside. It's been actually a huge heat wave, so we've gone out to the beach and gone to like rivers and stuff, and just done all kinds of. It's been pretty good, but it's kind of sad that when you think that it's not everyone has the freedom to do that. In fact, I've known some people who have lost their jobs during this time, which really sucks. One of them, I might be getting a job working on a Dash project, which is kind of crazy. But there have been a few people who have posted some very depressing things, and it's not been fun. But anyway, enough about the sadness and stuff. You are right up in Venezuela actually now. And I'm sure that where you were before, you could not spend crypto as many places as you can where you're at. Is that true?
Yeah. Well, in Mexico City, there is one go-to place if you want to spend your Dash or your crypto. It's called the Bitcoin Embassy Bar.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Lorena, if you're watching, we
Hi,
really
Lorena.
like you. So there's that place, and there's about 5 or 10 people that are places that are advertised on one exchange's website. And I visited a couple of them, and I never had the chance to spend because of different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But in Venezuela, you do have the chance to spend crypto on very different occasions. I'll share one that is very interesting. When I arrived to Venezuela, I arrived to Valencia's airport, and
Mm-hmm.
I needed somebody to drive me to Caracas for my meetings. So I write on my friends group, and I say, hey, does anybody know a taxi driver or somebody that can take me to Caracas? So this one guy says, hey, my cousin will take you. He's moonlighting as a driver.
Mm-hmm.
So connects me to his cousin, and I'm like, cool, how much do you charge and what payment methods do you take? So he says, I'll take bolivars, I'll take dollars, or I'll take crypto. So I'm like, really? Which crypto do you take? Well, you can give me Bitcoin, Dash, or anything you want, except that one crypto that he doesn't like, and I'm not going to name it. But
You're gonna have to name it later because I do want to know.
it's related to government issues, so
Okay.
it's
Yes, I
so
understand.
better not go there. So the really interesting thing is that this was one random connection of a friend, and the guy takes crypto. So on my way, I'm like, why do you take crypto? And he was like, I've been mining since 2013. So this is, one might be a random
Mm-hmm.
thing that happened, but yeah, crypto is kind of well known in this country.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool, crazy. Your video might be frozen, so if you could just turn it off and on again, that would probably work. Now, obviously, the connection isn't always that great, so we're we're doing our best here, and that's all right because it's what you have to say. As much as you have a pretty face, we can find that elsewhere, but your real time insights, that's only here. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, thank you.
so Megasoft is a point of sale provider, correct? Like a kind of like a Square in the U.S. or something like that.
Well, it's more of a, I wouldn't know. It's probably, I think you could say, I don't remember any big names, but Megasoft is right there between the banking system and the merchants. So
Mm-hmm.
they make a solution and they plug into the banks and then plug into the merchants, and they provide the hardware, the software, the cloud system and storage for stores, or only one of them for different stores. And they serve
Mm.
the largest pharmacy chain, the largest hardware store, the largest retail chain. So they're basically everywhere. And, this is an interesting story because I have been talking to Megasoft for more than a year now. And, we started talking with them, and I pitched Dash and say, hey, let's get you on crypto. And we evolved in the relation, and we went through different hurdles, and then at the end they decided that it was best for their interest and their clients interest to get an integration through somebody that had offices and compliance team and everyone
Mm.
in the country. So they chose, among all their options, they chose CryptoBuyer. And it's great because not only is CryptoBuyer a great partner of ours, but we work together to get many things done. So it's one of these cases where we couldn't go directly as the only crypto in Megasoft for compliance and legal reasons, but we got it through CryptoBuyer, who's an amazing partner. and there's many things on the pipeline. I obviously cannot tell you names, but great things are coming adoption wise.
Oh, very nice. I've noticed this thing. So it appears that the adoption wave has come in different things. So first off, we had people who were using cryptos like 2011, maybe 2012, who just would just they were basically valueless. Like they mine stuff, they traded on poker sites, maybe they did stuff like that. And then of course the first big thing that was exciting is when people started to trade peer to peer for goods and services, where it'd be one Bitcoin nerd versus another Bitcoin nerd. It'd be like, I'll buy your thing, yay! And then it was all great. And then it was always kind of an under the table thing. And then you got to mom and pop retailers, where you actually had people like a storefront that people could visit, and actually their little tablet, they got the little thing on it, like an AnyPay app or something like that, or Crypto Buyer app or whatever it is. And then that's like the hallmark of the big 2017, 2018 craze. And then now it seems to be that while like I've noticed that the craze, the bubble's gone down. I mean, it's starting to come back up again, right? But I noticed the bubble's come down, and with it, a lot of like small businesses aren't taking it anymore, or there's not as much energy to get them taking it. And now it seems like, but despite all that, I can spend, in my personal life, I can spend crypto easier and more places, I think, because there have been, say, Bitrefill has expanded their things, and there's been other companies that have come up, and there's been other services and integrations. And first I thought that might have been like a US only thing, but then of course I heard about Pido and Dingo, two delivery services that basically let you buy anything at all in Venezuela with crypto. And or rather, not crypto, just Dash for now, from my understanding, both of them, even though they might accept other ones later. But so, do you think that that's the way the wave is going, to where you're going to have, like, say, the DoorDash of the world, or the Uber of the world, or things like that are taking it directly, and then the small retailers will be the last to mass adopt crypto? Is that the way you're seeing it too, or is it different?
Yeah. Well, it obviously depends on where you're talking, what area of the world.
Mm-hmm.
What happened in Venezuela is very different to what happens in Mexico, or what I saw in Argentina or Uruguay last year when I went for La Bitcoin. Here, the payment, the financial system is broken in many ways. So when you have amazing teams on the ground going door to door and showing people this new thing called Dash that can be used to receive payments,
mm-hmm.
merchants say yes. And they say yes because they are used to their system breaking down. Right now, it's very difficult. For example, I had $100 bill that I could not spend for about 3 weeks. And the reason I could not spend it is because even though everybody wanted my $100, either they didn't have change, or they wanted me to spend the whole bill at once, or they just asked me to pay one part in dollars and the remaining in bolivars. So long story short, even though dollars are accepted here, they're legal, and I went to different places where they could take my dollars, it was difficult to use. So on this situation, and I'm talking about today,
Yeah.
crypto makes a lot of sense. And if you're paying something that costs, $2, $3, $5, $10, a $12 dinner, you don't want to pay $3 of fee. That's why Dash is still poised, and Dash is still ready to solve many problems, and we're solving it.
Mm-hmm.
So to get to the question that you shared earlier, are we now only going for bigger stores? Well, the reason is the reason of doing that is Dash learned that going store by store is a very good way to start. And if I had to start in another country, I would tell the guys to start with mom and pop shops and, around the corner stores, because that proves, that validates that the system works. And then you can start scale up and you can start going to larger merchants. But at the moment in Venezuela, we are at a stage where we can, knock on the door of big retailers and big stores and say, hey, Dash here, do you want to talk? And many of them do talk to us. Besides Megasoft and besides their clients, we're talking to top two, top three retailers from different areas of the industry. So in the near future, in what's remaining of 2020, some of them will start accepting Dash as a payment method. And not only that, they're open to work with us so we can help them solve some of these other issues, like, paying their employees some bonuses in Dash, helping people to pay faster in Dash, like Dash Mall did in Merida. So yeah, it all started with small mom and pop shops, and now we've grown to, let's say, the next level.
Yeah, the small mom and pop thing is a great way to really, I think it's the best way to enforce the use case, where you actually see how it's being used in the real world. You see the pain points, you see all the problems, you see what's great about it, and the owner's there to talk to about it. And it's just like you get to have that relation. It's like that's where it all gets like started. Now, having the big chains, especially services like Bit Refill and things like that, is especially useful when you basically need to get someone to get in the habit of spending it. Now, even if it's like a micro, like a merchant can just basically passively accept crypto. They just sit there, never get any. Oh wait, one day someone comes in, spends $50. Wow, that's great. And then, either they keep it in crypto or they get it converted, whatever it happens. They don't need to care, just as long as their staff remembers how to do it, or as long as the person who talks to them says, hey, you just click this button here or whatever. As long as that's okay, then it's okay. But the problem is getting people to come in and spend it. And if they don't have a habit out of it, like I have a pretty good habit of spending crypto because I've been doing it for a while. And depending on, waves, like, oh, I go to this store, I go to that store. I haven't spent a lot at in-store like payments in a while because of the whole corona thing. A lot of them weren't open, and then a lot of it just like, oh, I don't want to go to the next town over to try it now and stuff. We will be resurrecting some meetups pretty soon though, and I feel like the having one or two, and here's the thing with people will learn how to spend crypto at all the different places, but they can't. It's not going to be the first thing in their mind. Like you don't say, "Hey, do you want to buy some of the crypto? Spend, try to live off of it." Okay, well, where can I spend it? And you say, well, so you get this place around the corner here, and then there's that place the next town over. Look at this map. This has this, and if that's not enough, so you can go to this one site. You can buy Amazon gift cards. You can get a lot of stuff off Amazon. But if you want to buy, then they're just like, I don't know. That's something you have to learn over time. But if you just say, like, I just tell people, okay, if you have crypto, you want to buy anything in the world, go to shopandbit.com, click on the concierge service, and if you have a minimum of $100 or €100 for your order, then you can just buy anything, and it works. And they just ship it right to you, even if you don't know, where to find the item. A lot of times they just find it for you, and there you go. One thing. Second thing, Bit Refill. Bit Refill everything else. That's it. And then now they start saying, well, where can I spend it in person? Where can I do my little? How can I pay a bill with it? All that kind of stuff. Then it's like it gets more complicated. But as long as you can sell them on, you can buy anything with it. Then that gets their foot in the door as a consumer. And I think that's one thing that we have too little of. I wouldn't say we have too few crypto merchants. Oh, we always want more. but I think we have far too few people trying to spend it with any kind of regularity. I don't know if is that the same in Venezuela, do you think?
Yeah, well, um, I always tell people, and they are surprised when I say that Venezuela is the place with the largest foothold of adoption right now in the world.
Mm-hmm.
The reason is that there's a mix of very unique attributes that make Venezuela a great testing ground for all crypto solutions. Number one, people are willing to use it. It's not only that they're willing, they are pushed to use it, because if you keep your money in bolivars, you know that it's going to evaporate. I'll
Mm-hmm.
give you a very, very true story. When I landed on this country on the 27th or 28th of February, $1 was 68,000 bolivars.
Okay.
Today, $1 is, let me just check that. Today, $1 is 263,000 bolivars. So within a couple of months, 269,740 bolivars.
Mm-hmm.
So within 4 months, if I had kept, 500,000 bolivars, which was a little less than $10, right now it would be $2. So people without a deep understanding of economics, they know that they cannot keep their bolivars. So number one, people are willing to use it. Number two, there's quite a few teams on the ground doing adoption initiatives. There's, it all started with Dash Venezuela and Eugenia and her team. And then there's been all these great teams, Dash Merchant, Dash Text, Dash Mall, and each one of them has added their value and has learned from what the previous teams did. And besides Dash, there's also a lot of other communities. There's a Bitcoin community here that's working, a lot into getting adoption, not adoption. They're working on spreading the word about Bitcoin. There's, the community manager from Binance is a Venezuelan person. So Binance also has somebody on the ground here besides a couple of other people they call angels. Then there's Crypto Buyer that's here. And there's a bunch of local companies there's 7 local exchanges that are working with government license. There's a few other digital wallets that, even though they're not crypto yet, they are, fintech solutions. There's cryptocurrency programs in many universities that I know of. There's people teaching how to mine. There's a lot of miners. There was actually a report by CoinShares, if I recall. And in Latin America, they only mentioned 2 countries that have, significant hashing rate. One of them was Venezuela. So you put all these ingredients and then you throw on top that the financial system has problems, and you get this melting pot for the potential of growing something in crypto. And, we've been blessed that Dash started early on the movement, and Dash
stayed.
Venezuela did a lot of things, and we took the first momentum, and we've been working. And, it's interesting to see. It's been more than 2 years with all the different teams, Dash Core being one of them, working hard in Venezuela. And that is the reason why, among the people that know about crypto, Dash is one of the most popular ones.
Yeah, and do you find a lot of technological issues around using crypto? Because I know once in a while here in the US, you run into some issues, whether it's a connection issue or an app working weird. And I can imagine in a country where you actually have blackouts and have problems like that, it's got to be a lot worse. So is that a big barrier for crypto adoption, is the technological problems?
Well, it all depends on what you want to do. Yes, there's a lot of blackouts here, especially when you compare it to, a stable country like the US, or even countries that are in Latin America. Basic infrastructure is failing here quite commonly. Um, but the people that are mining, they already understand that, this problems can come. So maybe they get a power plant. And people that are working on retail, they also get power plants or they use a backup system. I'll tell you a funny story. Um, on March, a few days before quarantine, I was in Caracas and I went to a big electronic shopping mall where Crypto Mobile is selling a lot of their units.
Yeah.
And there is a small coffee there. It's called Café Micosa. They get a lot of transactions. And I asked them, hey, man, what do you do when there's no electricity? So he showed me a sticker that they made with a QR code. And he says, well, I take out my QR code because sometimes there's a 1 hour blackout and people come here and they have a coffee. And if they have a Crypt phone and they want to pay with Dash, they can just pay me here, and then whenever I get electricity back on, I know that the Dash will be on my wallet. So it's slowly but surely starting to go through different people, and the ones that know how to use it, they figure out how it can work, even though the infrastructure is not great. And I want to make something clear.
Mm-hmm.
This is still not the majority of people. This is still a small group because it's not as easy as it could be. But we are seeing, some, I like to call them seeds that are beginning to, grow after they were planted.
Yeah, for sure. And when talking about a small group, I understand. So around here, a few different times I have a Bitcoin shirt that I bought with Dash because of course, but I still, have it. I wear it around. And frequently I get people who say, well, they recognize it and say something. And one old guy, he's got to have been in his 60s to 80s, like somewhere in that range. He recognized it and he's like, oh, I heard that stock did really well. He thought it was a stock because, come on, he's old. It's okay. But the other day I went out running and I was wearing this exact I have like 10 of these shirts. So, one time they're black like my running shorts. So I was going for a run and some kid was like, oh, Dash, that's cool. Like he recognized it. And the new logo, not just, the old one, which had more time. And every publication still wants to use the old logo too, but that's a different conversation. But so you do still have that kind of recognition that it's not nothing. It's not just because it's not mainstream doesn't mean it doesn't exist and people don't recognize it. And so, like when I talk to people about like what I do, it's obviously I have a very strange, like for the last however many years I've had a very strange situation where like what do you do for a living becomes a little bit of a nuanced question. It's like, well, but when I do say that, I'm like a journalist that works in fintech, everyone knows. But if I say I'm like a journalist in like blockchain and crypto, like they know, they like 95% of people know. And so I'm sure that as far as using it, that's where it gets a little bit more difficult. But I mean, I can definitely imagine like it depends on some establishments. Like I do know how many people pay in crypto based on how long it takes, based on how familiar the employees are. Like if they're like, they have no idea, then they'll ask someone else. Sometimes they'll be like, oh yeah. And then they'll ask someone else, which means they kind of know what happens, but and then if they just say like, yeah, sure. Hey, I want to pay in Dash? Sure. It is funny, especially Dash is especially a great metric for that because because Dash sounds very much like cash. And if you say Dash and they kind of recognize it and they don't instantly think you misspoke and meant cash, that's how you know that, you got some little bit of a foothold in the brain there. But yeah, I can imagine it's probably the same thing. Although, is there a word in Venezuela that they use that's at all similar to Dash?
Not really. Yeah, like some people here could say that, I want to pay in cash, but, in the way we pronounce cash and dash sounds fairly different.
Mm-hmm.
So like if somebody is familiar with dash, they would know.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what you're saying about the merchants either knowing or being aware that this thing exists,
Mm-hmm.
it's totally true. And in Caracas, I went to two different stores of the same chain, and in one of them, it was obvious that they had not received any dash payments for some time because they were receiving it with a device. And the girl said, "Well, no, we don't take any more crypto." And I was like, "Yeah, you have the device right there." It's so it turned out that she didn't know how to use it, so she was first denying me of
Yeah,
doing
which
it.
annoys the crap out of me. Like this has
Yeah,
happened to
but
me a few times where
yeah, but
yeah,
what that means is that we as Dash are not doing our job right because we're not going there enough or we're not showing people. And then on the other store of the same chain, they were very familiar, and the person just brought the device really quickly and took my payment immediately. And this guy did not know Dash, but he knew that the blue one was the really fast one, and the one that he preferred because he didn't have to wait. So
mm-hmm.
it's a mix of how much the employee is willing to learn, how often do they get these payments, and how much the retailer values this.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see that it doesn't matter where you are, you can get very similar results. And thank you to the guys that were on YouTube saying that there was some noise. I just turned off a fan that is around here, so you
Yes,
should
that
hear
that
the
was
blowing.
that was what it was. People thought you're going making the breath, but
No, yeah, just
yeah.
turn it off.
So on that does remind me of the one thing that did annoy me is I went to pay. It was like 6 months ago or so, maybe 8 months, like late last year, last fall. I went to buy a coffee with Dash, and the day before, at least two, if not three, different people had not only paid with crypto but with Dash. Like it's that's a lot of people, I guess, right? And so you had three people, and then the next day I came in, and it was a Saturday, and I obviously a different shift. And then the girl like, "Hey, you get paid." Dash is like, "No, we don't take that." And I said, "Yeah, you do. It's on the stickers on on the door." "No, we don't." And I just said, "All right, well," and because you could tell that there was like a few people behind me. She just wanted to move things along, and just was like gonna be an asshole. But I said, talk to the owner right over there and tell him. It's like I made her. It's like, "Oh yeah," and they figured it out. But like you could tell that it was like a battle of wills. She was just like, she did not want to do anything different. Wanted card or cash, period, and just wanted to move things along, and was willing to just basically lie to get rid of me, which is kind of annoying. That is the extreme case, though. Mostly they'll say, "Oh, I don't know," or if they're like lazy, they'll just say, "No, I don't think we take that." And then, but she would actually like stuck to her guns about we don't take that, and that did annoy me. But what do you see as? So let's see, up here a little bit. Great Wolf said, "Sounds like Ernesto has boots on the ground. What's his opinion on what helped the most in getting Dash adoption out there? How can this be replicated in other parts of the world?" So you said a lot of stuff about why Venezuela was a great spot for Dash. Now, as far as what, of course, I'm sure stuff has been done wrong as well, but in
Yeah, of
retrospect,
course.
we know. But so if you were going to say, hey, I don't know, pick a country. Let's just say the U.S. is easy enough. Let's just say someplace in the U.S. like California that does not have. Let's assume that it's open. By the way, let's forget the lockdowns for a second. Let's say someplace
Yeah,
like California that does not really have a lot of crypto adoption or usage, but there's enough tech people there that probably someone said something about it. A lot of people might have heard. What are some tips you would give if someone says, "Hey, we want to start Dash California, and we want to come out there and we want to get a lot of merchants to accept it, and we
yeah,
want to basically let you be able to live off of crypto in California."
yeah,
What would your advice be? What was some tips you've learned?
yeah. Good. So great question about Dash California, and I'll get to that in a
Mm-hmm.
minute. But I'll use a story to segue into how something like Dash California can happen,
Mm-hmm.
and it's taken off from the previous part of the conversation when you were saying that you were being denied of your payment in Dash.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I have seen and what we've spoken with the Dash Venezuelan teams is that the more friction you put into the payment system, the and it's obvious, the more difficult it will be for it to happen. So probably what's happening in that store that you went is that when somebody wanted to pay with crypto, there was a different system. Maybe the cashier needed to walk and get something elsewhere. Maybe there was a phone that was held only by the manager or the store owner, and he needed to come and just show his QR code and say, hey, pay me here or whatever. That is why the integration with Megasoft is such a game changer, because all of the payment process is going to happen in the same screen,
Mm-hmm.
in the same flow that it's already when you're going to pay with cash, debit, or credit. So making it easier for everyone involved is key for making this a success. And I still don't know how big of a success it will be with Megasoft. I believe it will be much better because there's many of these components that are solved. And going into the Dash California story, the reason why I believe we have gotten some gains in Venezuela is because we solved some problems. 2 years ago, the big problem was that you literally could not pay on many stores because the debit card or credit cards would not go through. Right now, they do go through, but sometimes they're slow, especially when you're outside of Caracas, and almost nobody has changed. So what's happening is that if you need to pay $23.5, if you go with 100, like I said, forget about it. But if you go with a 20, maybe you would give the 20 and then pay the 3.5 with your card, which might be delayed because of the reasons I already outlined.
Mm.
So, if you solve a problem, at least one of the parts will be willing to take it. In Venezuela, we learned already how to get the yes from the merchant, and we still need to do a lot of work on getting the yes from the user. So if we were to start in Dash California, I would say, okay, what problem can we solve? What can we do better than other methods? And then once we find at least one problem, I would say, okay, let's make it as easy as possible for all the parties involved to be used. And one other component of the growth strategy that we spoke about a few years ago is gaming. Just yesterday there was a very nice article
Oh, I
that
saw that one.
was sharing how Ready Raiders found that Dash was a great use case for them because when people are playing World of Warcraft and they go on a team and they want to share stuff, sometimes they want to buy or sell some of the perks they get, and they don't want to wait 3 10-minute confirmations to get their whatever, or they don't want to have to pay $3 fees. So in this case, Dash can solve a problem. So Dash California does not necessarily have to go after the same problem that Dash Venezuela is going for.
Mm-hmm.
It just needs to find a problem and solve it better than whatever else is out there, and then making it easier and putting it right in front of the people involved, and then iterate.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've noticed is cash is becoming an interesting situation in the U.S., and I'm sure that's the same in the rest of the world too. Because first off, because of coronavirus and such, a lot of people are pushing really hard to go cashless. So in that way, the cash is becoming a much more fringe payment method by the day because of that. And at the same time, the demand for raw cash has gone up, not just because of the decrease in the supply, I would say, but independent of the supply. Because when people got scared, they did a mini run on the banks here. In back in March or so, people just started withdrawing a lot of cash and hiding it, and a lot of banks were putting like a $500 limit, or they just weren't letting you get your money out at all because they were afraid of running out because they didn't have any. Of course, this is not a time for a lengthy lesson on how the banking system works or doesn't, but basically, when people are scared, they want like actual money. And so people want that kind of like, they don't trust that the banks are going to like their card's going to work forever. There's a little bit of doubt for the most part up until the beginning of this year. Americans had 99.5% certainty, I would say, depending on which American, of course, on that their money was going to be in their bank and they were going to be able to use it no problem. Now I would say that might be down to like a 90% or an 85 or something. It's like, you're starting to get a little thinking there. And so people will still want to be able to, especially because during the whole lockdown things, a lot of people kept operating in business, but they just were doing it illegally and they were doing it under the table. And if you start seeing like the card stuff show up in your bank, it's like, wait, I thought you're supposed to be locked down, Mr. Jim. Aren't you? Your people are there lifting weights. Like, what's going on here? This is a little strange. And so then people would want to take payments and say only cash. And so basically that's a great opportunity for crypto. But also, of course, as you notice, like gold has been doing fantastic. Crypto has been doing a lot better lately, although that could just be a time for the price to start going up again. It could just be the market cycle. But you notice that I think that also people are going to start getting a little bit scared about the losing purchasing power of their money. In fact, where I go get my hair cut, before the lockdown, $18. After the lockdown, $20. I'm seeing prices start to go up. And that's not a good sign when you can actually see it. Not just, oh yeah, I remember a few years ago I didn't. Like, no, like I remember like a couple months ago, and I start seeing them go up, and you're like, oh no. And so I think that when people get scared, they're going to want something that they think can hold their value and that they can use on their own. Like the entire permissionless nature of crypto combined with the manipulation resistance, I think that is going to be a huge selling thing for people to buy it and get it, but then they need to learn how to spend it. And so that's the thing that I think is going to have to happen next. And so you were talking about the friction at the point of sale. In this particular case where it's talking about the girl didn't want to mess with it, as you said, usually you have your app, your point of sale app, and you do all the payments in there. And in this case, on the tablet, you close that app, open up, you don't close it, but you minimize it and open up the AnyPay app, enter, and then you can pay it. And then you go back in the other one, treat it like a cash thing. So it's pretty good, but there is an extra step where just like with cash, you'd have to do a thing and open the register and count it and all this stuff. There's a little extra step where you minimize that, open this one, take the payment, and then you go back in. So it's slightly more. It's not to where it's like, oh, this is going to hold up the line or anything like that. But it is like if you're not used to doing that, you can imagine you're just like, I don't want to mess with it. And so, as you said, getting into Megasoft where it's actually in there is a game changer. And that's like, I think that is the friction when it comes to crypto is not so much that the crypto itself is a friction point. It's the extra things you have to combine with the crypto in order to use it. So in this case, you have to get a different app. It's not in the main app. You do a different app. If you just did crypto, it would be super easy. But the fact that you got a different app, because you already have one that does everything, that's what makes it hard. And as I've also, whenever you receive a crypto payment, the information that gets transmitted there is really minimal, because you open your app, or just say, hey, you get to see this much crypto reached an address. You can see that on a blockchain. But what you can't see is what's the valuation of that. Like, how was that $5? Is it like, you can sometimes see that, right? But then, like, what is it? Like, what is that for? Is it a payment? And if so, was it for what product? Who did it come from? It came from this big thing to here. where do you see, you can't just look up the history of an address anymore and see payment, 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 payment. It's like this address only has one payment, and then the other one over here, and they're all in the same wallet. So if you have the wallet screen, you can kind of see here, 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 here. The wallet makes it easier for you, but you still don't see where it came from or why you got it. And so I was looking at, shout out to README, of course, hopefully you're watching this, developer who he did a video of the Chrome wallet, he made the Chrome wallet for Dash platform, the Evolution Chrome wallet. And he was showing how in like the username registration thing works on, kind of on the back end about how you associate with an identity and you associate that with a wallet and stuff. And then of course I chatted with some of the other devs like Ivan, and it's kind of mind blowing because that not only is it not a long address, but it's like a username that you'll be able to use, even though the long address exists back end, but that you can associate identity data with that, which can be things like a product in a store. So now, if I just sent you some stuff, you can just say it's from at the Desert Links. That's who you got it from, and it just says for one bagel with cream cheese. And it's like now you see in your transaction history, you get the actual data there too. And I noticed that when I'm using crypto with friends and stuff or other things, there's always extra information I have to do. Like, for example, I got to go on the messenger and say, hey, what's your address? And they have to send it. And then it just got to say how much, like, is, $5, whatever. And so the actual wallet if I'm looking up a transaction history with someone, the wallet data, the actual blockchain data is only a small part of that. If I want to know, like, did I pay them? How much was that for? I go back through my message history with this person where all the actual transaction information is. And I have a feeling that when that thing gets solved, you're going to see a huge explosion in point of sale type softwares that are going to want to work with crypto, since now they can get the rest of the information they want. And then, of course, that thing, you're going to see a big explosion in usage. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see the similarities that happen when governments do the same bad things.
Yeah,
and starting with the inflation and the shortage of cash. If you see in Venezuela, for example, why was there scarcity of cash? Well, because if you start printing a lot of money, you do not literally print everything that you make. Mm-hmm. So it is probable that, there's going to be, a couple of these trillion that were printed that they were not physically printed. I don't know the numbers, but that is what happened in Venezuela. You throw out a lot of money that, it's a bunch of ones and zeros on people's account, but you do not necessarily print them. So that started some of the scarcity in Venezuela. And it's, the resemblances are very interesting. Of course, it's a long way, and there's a huge difference between what has happened in Venezuela and the few economic movements that you're seeing in the States. And I hope you guys never come even close to seeing some of the bad results. But it is very eye-opening for me to see that the impact is immediate and that, some of the symptoms are similar. I wanted to also point out that, the onboarding part, it's, just like you said, it needs to be easy. And probably this person that was denying of using crypto, probably she was scared that she would mess up, or she had a bad experience where somebody paid with a slow crypto and she needed to wait 10 minutes, or she messed up and she deleted, that K at the end of the address and something went wrong. Because what I have seen, and, before being full-time in technology, I was doing trade marketing for a consumer product. And what I understood is that, salespeople want to sell, but when something is a bit different or more difficult for them, then they'll shy away from it, and they'll, try to avoid it, or maybe even deny it. So probably something happened to this lady, and she wasn't so secure about her ability or the ability of the software to work. So yeah, the easier it becomes, the better it will be. And what one of the game changer abilities that platform will bring is that you can start recording a lot of stuff on the blockchain, and that's going to be actually very good. For example, we know that the big institutions already started kind of unwillingly or unhappily accepting that crypto is here to stay.
Yeah.
So they started putting out laws about it. One of these laws is the travel rule. So crypto now, anybody that wants to work with crypto needs to comply with the travel rule. And what is one of the main points of this travel rule? Well, if Joel is sending Ernesto some money, wherever Joel is, needs to record that, Joel Valenzuela with ID number 1234 has sent $50 to somebody. And the receiving end is Ernesto Contreras, ID 5678910, received this $50. So once an organization takes your data and is able to save that on the blockchain and assign that to you, you only need to do that once. And even though you're sending money on a decentralized store, if you were doing it through an organization that is dedicated to sending remittances around the world, that organization can comply with American laws and at the same time provide the freedom and low cost of sending cryptocurrency around the world. So this is just one example where Dash platform and storing names and a little bit more of information on the blockchain can come in handy and advance use for everyone.
Yeah, of course. Especially as long as that kind of stuff is optional, and you can at the same time maintain some sort of a privacy. And that's the thing is, it's one of those things where there's a great divide with crypto, where people are there's the old roots. The reason this whole thing exists is it can't be manipulated or tracked. It's money your own way. And when it starts to become, when people see that there's ways that people can do this in a compliant sort of a way, way that makes regulators and governments happy, some people start to become very afraid again. They're like, oh no, this is the reason I got out of the old stuff to begin with. And I think one of the beauties of cash is that cash is something that governments are clearly okay with to a certain extent because they make it, and you can use it. You can use it in a completely private, kind of any way you want type of thing, including a very compliant kind of a way. Is you can do both, and as long as Dash remains digital cash and it's something that you can use however you want, and it makes it easy to use however you want. That's, I think, going to be one of the biggest things that's going to be an advantage. And I read some article recently about, was it Brian Armstrong of Coinbase, talking about how he doesn't, or it was either him or some other high up at Coinbase, but they were talking about how they can't see them adding Monero anytime in the future because of the way it works. And that makes sense to me, because it's not just that it's private, it's just that because it's always private, and I don't think they've done very much to make sure it's easy to use it in a compliant sort of a way. There's just too many problems. They don't want to touch it for a while. And so that's always going to be a little bit of a barrier. Now, on the other hand, if it's something like a USDC, which you can have your addresses blacklisted on, or if it's like a Petro or something like that, that people don't want that either. Because when you have that, it's just like that's the entire point. You go back into the whole reason you decided to get into crypto to begin with. And so the absolute perfect thing is it's got to be something that you can use like cash. You know, you can use it for whatever you want without anyone's permission. And you've got to be able to use it for your regular suit and tie business money that you pay your taxes with and stuff like that. And it's got to be as easy as possible to use it for either of those applications, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, what I meant regarding the travel rule is that,
Yes.
if you're sending money right now from the States to Mexico, for example, and you're using Western Union, you right now you would need to submit your name and number. So what this will allow is that for people that choose to keep using those kind of services, there will be a new, better, cheaper option. Obviously, there's going to be people that do not want to share their data, and they will continue to use the Dash or another type of cryptocurrency wallet that does not require them to go to a store like a Western Union type of store. So the I always say that freedom means you have more options.
Yes.
So just having the different options and having the technology uh, get to the point where it is easy or not impossible to build different solutions. It's just something that's going to be better for everyone. And some people have their preference when it comes to how companies operate. And some will like the Coinbase approach, and others will disagree with it. But on whether it's something that the initial cryptocurrency movement intended or not, the more this space grows, the more it will get entangled with the older system, and there needs to be some bridges, and some
Yeah.
companies will build that, and others will go on a different way. So only time will tell.
Yeah, and of course, the choice is what really matters. And it's funny because the crypto world that wants mass adoption and wants everything to be compliant and stuff, it's in an interesting position where no one really, I mean, it's crazy anarchists, yes, but no normal people really want this to be something that's not used illegitimately. It's got to be something that the government approves of, that businesses won't get in trouble for, and it's just all clean and above board. And that's a very different perspective, because it's at the same perspective that believes all that wants 110% regulatory compliance, also thinks that a despotic state blocking activist bank accounts and taking their money and hyperinflating the currency and all that is a terrible thing and it sucks, and that's why we got to it. In my opinion, though, those things they're very different categories of the exact same thing, which is the result of not enough freedom. And so it's funny because it has to be able to be used in a dynamic way. It has to be able to be used in a completely, regulatorily compliant fashion, but it also has to be able to used in any other way, because at some point the legitimate use case and the compliant use case will could start to diverge depending on what country you're in. And so just having something that works for everything is really something that I think works well. Now,
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
keep
I
going.
mean, it's now we get into a bit more of
Of
philosophical debate,
course.
because what's it could we can start talking about what's right and what's
Mm-hmm.
wrong, and that there's not a right or wrong response there. And also, if you add that different governments around the world will
Mm-hmm.
have their own views on what is right and wrong,
Mm-hmm.
so it just makes it complex. So I like to say that the beauty of open source and the beauty of the cryptocurrency world is that different teams will have different beliefs, and they will build what's right in their mind, and then it's going to be up for users to determine which one they like the most.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great that we as a cryptocurrency movement, and I'm talking broadly,
Mm-hmm.
um, some people will build stuff to be compliant, and others people will build stuff to go against legacy systems. So it's going to be a matter of which ones users prefer to use and can use. And one thing is certain: cryptocurrency is unstoppable.
Mm.
So it is great to have more options. And like I said before, freedom means having a lot of options, and being from and having lived in places where options get diminished. It is great to open more doors and share them with people.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. Now, we're getting up to the hour mark here. Is there anything really exciting you either want to share with people or that you want to direct some people to look at to keep an eye out for?
Yeah. Well, on it's
Mm-hmm.
it's sad that coronavirus slowed down a lot of the activities we're doing in Latin America. But still, in the next quarter and the next 2 quarters, we're going to see very exciting news coming out of Venezuela.
Mm.
It's a matter of days, maybe hours, if you discount the weekend.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a cool announcement coming out of the northern part of Latin America. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be a first timer for, I think, the crypto world in Latin America. So that's cool. We also have a lot of interesting things. We analyzed our trading strategy and discovered that and when I say we, it's all of Dash, not only Dashco Group. We had been working on getting into more and more exchanges and getting instant send, but there's a lot of other things that traders want to use. They want to get loans using their Dash. They
Mm-hmm.
want to get bots to allow them to trade automatically. They want to get leverage trading. Some of them, they want to get tools so they can see the changes in price or trends. So we've been working in the past during the whole year in refining this strategy and getting more of this as partners of Dash. And we've completed a new phase, and soon we're going to, share news on how this is going to work and allow the Dash traders to use this, but also show people outside of the Dash community, hey, there's this very cool crypto that you can use to move your money in seconds between exchanges. And you can also use all these other services. So we have a full pipeline of growth that we're working, and we're working alongside marketing in Dash to get the word out. And
Mm-hmm.
this will only get better and bigger and faster once we have the Dash platform out. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely very excited about what's coming up, not only in business development, but in Dash as a whole. And
Yeah.
I hope that we can share this with the world, and more people will know that Dash is digital cash. That you can use it. It's not only for speculating and holding it. You can actually use it and live off of it.
Well, fantastic. I'm really looking forward to that. So, everyone, I really hope you enjoyed the podcast. We try to keep it to a nice tight hour, but things always go over because, we get excited about things. But yeah, thanks for watching. And I'm sure if you're watching, you can see the little, there it is, the CoinTree donation link. You go there. It's a cool little app, which, by the way, shout out to Naomi for making this happen. And we've had quite a few people throw some Dash recently, which has been pleasantly surprising. So thanks to everyone who donates. It really makes a big difference. Also subscribe to the channel. I think that's there. Yep, subscribe. Mostly stream on YouTube right now because that's the biggest, most reliable thing right now. But as soon as there's some kind of cool decentralized network we can stream to, I do it to Float as well, but I had to stop halfway through because it just kept giving me errors. But subscribe. Now, Ernesto's on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle?
At Ernesto Contreras.
Oh, there we go. That's pretty, not Contreras, just Contreras. right?
Yeah, without the last two letters.
Yeah, so to put your thumb over the last two letters and just there you go. And follow him there because I'm sure he'll be sharing all this cool news and stuff. And of course, at Dash Pay, all the official Dash stuff is sure to get that out. So now it's time for the after party, which is just a nice, fun conversation like this, except more informal, not recorded, so don't worry, with as many people as you want, sometimes to the wee hours of the morning. It's, a lot of people know that real business gets done in the social hours afterwards. So a lot of real cool stuff does get done there. So if you want to do that, first you have to go find the Dash Talk Discord, which is staydashy.com, dash with a Y, right? Staydashy.com, and just start asking around. Hey, where's it at? Where's the after party? I want in the after party, or whatever. Or if you know how to contact me other than that, like on Facebook, Twitter, any of the million networks I'm on, go ping me and just say I want in on the after party, and I'll get you in. Any last words, Ernesto?
Yeah, well, I will not be able to join you on the after party today because one of the things that I left back home in Mexico is my 2FA. And I'm out, but I already found a way to solve it. So hopefully in the next week, I'll be back on Discord. If anybody wrote to me on Discord, apologies. That's why I haven't responded.
Because I wrote you quite a few times over the last few weeks, but you always responded on Twitter. So I was like, that's why. That makes sense.
Yeah. So, well, that's number one. In case anybody else wrote, it's not because I'm rude. It's just because I'm locked out. And if there's any ideas, comments that you would like to share with me or the rest of the team, just feel free to reach out. And I'm always open to talking. I don't always have all the time that I wish to respond, but it's great. And let's make the most. It looks like price is looking good for all of crypto. So let's take the opportunity to show people that there's an amazing Dash community that is working on building, better money. And we're out there hustling and working hard to solve problems and make crypto really useful, which is what we're all here for. So it's a pleasure talking to you, and thank you, Joel, for the invitation.
Well, absolutely. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Hopefully see you in the after party. If not, then in 2 weeks we'll have another good one for you.